Captain Lee Do-yun stood straight as he walked into the massive meeting hall. The ceiling was so high that clouds formed near the top. Around him, alien creatures filled seats that could hold 100 humans each. His own chair looked like a toy next to theirs. The fortress world of Kepler 442b hosted the biggest military meeting in galaxy history. Every important species in the coalition was here. The Vorthak looked like giant lizards with teeth as long as swords. Their scales shined like metal armor. The Kalari buzzed and clicked, their insect bodies moving in ways that hurt to watch. The Nexari floated as balls of pure energy, speaking in voices that sounded like thunder. Then there were the humans. 12 officers from Earth sat in a small section marked for minor species. Lee Do-yun felt every alien eye watching them. Most of those eyes showed no respect. Admiral Park Hye-jin sat beside him. She was small even for a human, but her back stayed straight. She had fought in the border wars and earned every scar on her hands. Lee Do-yun trusted her more than anyone alive. The Ravager horde grows stronger each day, General Vextar announced. His voice shook the floor. The Vorthak commander stood 3 times taller than any human. His claws could crush steel. They have destroyed the Outer Rim colonies. Soon they will reach core worlds. Hive Lord's Kittle's mandibles clicked together. My swarms report massive enemy fleets. Thousands of ships, some as large as moons. The Kalari's compound eyes reflected light like broken glass. We need every vessel to stop them. The room buzzed with agreement. Alien languages mixed together in a sound like machinery breaking. Lee Do-yun watched holographic displays show enemy positions. Red dots marked Ravager fleets. They covered half the galaxy. Each species will contribute their strongest forces, General Vextar continued. The Vorthak pledged 50 dreadnoughts. Each one carries enough firepower to crack a planet. The aliens roared approval. Their massive ships appeared on the display. Lee Do-yun had seen those ships before. They were beautiful and terrible. Weapons covered every surface, armor thick enough to stop nuclear bombs, engines that could push them faster than light itself. The Kalari swarm offers 200 hive ships, Skittle announced, plus 1 million fighters. The insectoid fleets looked like metal wasps. They moved in perfect formation, controlled by shared minds that thought as one. More species announced their contributions. The Nexari promised energy weapons that could boil oceans. The Trilaxian showed crystal ships that bent space itself. Each fleet was bigger than anything humanity had ever built. Finally, all eyes turned to the human section. The hall grew quiet. Lee Do-yun felt his chest tighten. Admiral Park stood slowly. Her uniform looked simple next to the alien armor and biosuits around them. Earth contributes the 3rd fleet, she said. Her voice carried clearly through the massive room. 47 vessels total. The silence stretched longer. Then someone started laughing. Lee Do-yun could not tell which alien it came from, but others joined in. Soon the whole hall shook with alien amusement. 47 ships? General Vextar leaned forward. His massive head blocked out the lights above. That is barely a patrol group. What class are these vessels? Admiral Park's face showed nothing. Frigates, destroyers, and corvettes mostly. Our largest ship is 800 meters long. The laughter got louder. Hive Lord Skittle's clicking sounded like machine gun fire. 800 meters? My fighter craft are larger than that. Perhaps they misunderstood the question, another alien called out. Maybe they meant 8,000 meters. No, Admiral Park said calmly. 800 meters. General Vextar shook his massive head. Little mammals, this is not a time for jokes. The Ravager horde has world ships the size of asteroids. Your tiny boats would not even scratch their paint. Lee Do-yun's hands formed fists. Commander Kim Ji-won sat next to him, her face red with anger. Lieutenant Choi Min-ho looked ready to jump from his chair. But Admiral Park raised one hand slightly. The human officers stayed seated. My personal flagship is 12 kilometers long, General Vextar continued. It carries more firepower than your entire species has ever seen, yet even I consider it small for this battle. The human contribution is noted, Skittle buzzed with amusement. We will find them suitable duties. Perhaps cargo transport, medical supply runs. More laughter filled the hall. Lee Do-hyun heard whispers in a dozen alien languages. He caught words like pathetic and useless and, why did we let them join? An energy being near the back called out, maybe they can polish our ships after the real fighting is done. The insult brought fresh waves of laughter. Lee Do-hyun watched Admiral Park's face. She showed no emotion. Her eyes stayed fixed on the tactical display. She studied the enemy positions like they were the most interesting thing in the galaxy. Very well, General Vextar said when the laughter died down. The humans will take rear guard positions, stay in the outer system, leave the fighting to species with proper warships. We understand, Admiral Park replied. The meeting continued for 3 more hours. Battle plans took shape. The alien fleets would form a wall of steel and fire. Massive ships would trade massive weapons with the enemy. It was the kind of warfare the galaxy had known for thousands of years. Nobody asked for human input. Nobody wanted to hear human ideas. The aliens talked around them like they were not there. When the meeting ended, the human delegation walked toward the exit. Alien officers towered over them on all sides. Lee Do-hyun heard more whispers and laughter. Someone made a joke about using human ships for target practice. Outside the hall, Commander Kim Ji-won finally spoke. Admiral, we cannot let them treat us like this. They think our ships are toys, Lieutenant Choi Min-ho added. His young face burned with shame. Admiral Park stopped walking. She looked up at the alien fortress around them. Weapons platforms the size of buildings pointed toward space. Everything here was built for giants. Let them think that, she said quietly. Sometimes the best weapon is one your enemy never sees coming. Lee Do-hyun studied her face. Admiral Park was smiling, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. The human officers walked back to their shuttle. Above them, the alien fleets prepared for war. Massive ships moved into position like metal mountains. Their weapons could destroy worlds. But in the small human section of the fleet, something else was preparing. Something the aliens had never seen before. Something they would never expect from ships they thought were too small to matter. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could do when everyone thought they were weak. The human fleet hung in empty space at the edge of the star system. 47 ships that looked like toys next to the alien armada closer to the sun. Captain Lee Do-hyun stood on the bridge of Seoul's Pride and watched the tactical display. The alien fleets formed impressive battle lines. Hundreds of massive warships ready for traditional combat. Sir, we're getting more communications, Lieutenant Choi Min-ho reported from his station. The aliens are still talking about us. Lee Do-hyun nodded. Put it on speaker. Let the crew hear what they think of us. Alien voices filled the bridge. The translation software turned their words into human speech, but the tone was clear enough. I bet the humans run away before the first shot is fired, a Vorthak commander laughed. No, they will try to fight, another replied. But their little ships will be destroyed in seconds. It will be almost sad to watch. Should we take bets on how fast they die? The question came from a Kalari hive mind. I say less than 5 minutes once the real battle starts. Commander Kim Ji-won walked onto the bridge. Her face was dark with anger. Admiral Park wants all senior officers in the briefing room. Now. The briefing room aboard Seoul's Pride was small. 12 people made it feel crowded. But every human, ship captain was here, linked by quantum communication. Their faces filled wall screens around the room. Admiral Park stood at the front. Behind her, holographic displays showed technical specifications that made no sense to anyone who did not build human ships. Dr. Yoon Seo-hyun will explain why we are here, Park said. Dr. Yoon was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had designed most of the human fleet. Her hands moved as she talked, like she was building ships in the air. The aliens think big means strong, she began. For thousands of years, galactic warfare has been about size. Bigger ships, bigger guns, bigger explosions. Every species builds that way. Captain Bae Taehyung's image flickered on one screen. His stealth destroyer Incheon Ghost was invisible to most sensors. Except us. Exactly. Dr. Yoon smiled. Humans learned to fight differently. We had to. Earth's wars taught us that smart beats strong, fast beats slow, hidden beats obvious. She touched a control. The hologram changed to show Soul's Pride cut in half. Inside, systems packed every available space. No room was wasted. Look at our power core, Dr. Yoon said. It produces the same energy as a Vorthek dreadnought reactor, but ours is 1/10 the size. Captain Ojinsu leaned forward from another screen. His missile corvette Daegu Thunder carried enough firepower to level a city. How is that possible? Human engineering, Dr. Yoon replied. We compress everything. Fold space, bend time, squeeze matter until it fits where it should not fit. The aliens build big because they never learned how to build small. Admiral Park stepped forward. Show them the weapons. The hologram changed again. Now it showed Soul's Pride's main gun. The weapon looked tiny compared to alien cannons, but the energy readings made several captains whistle in surprise. This antimatter lance can punch through any armor in the galaxy, Dr. Yoon explained. It fires condensed particles moving at 99% light speed. The aliens have never seen anything like it. Because it should not fit on a ship this size, Commander Kim Ji-won said. Exactly. Their computers say it is impossible, so they never look for it. More weapons appeared on the display. Quantum torpedoes no bigger than footballs that could crack moons. Energy shields that bent light around ships like invisibility cloaks. Micro-jump drives that could teleport vessels across solar systems in seconds. Every human ship carries technology the galaxy thinks is impossible, Dr. Yoon continued. Not because we are smarter, but because we think differently. Lieutenant Nam Soo-young's voice came from another screen. She flew the fighter bomber Gwangju Lightning. What about their adaptive defenses? The reports say Ravager ships learn to resist weapons. Admiral Park answered that one. They adapt to what they see coming. Energy beams, kinetic rounds, plasma, bursts, standard galactic weapons that follow standard patterns. Our weapons do not follow patterns, Dr. Yoon added. Each shot changes based on what it hits. The antimatter lance reads the target's molecular structure and adjusts its frequency. The quantum torpedoes exist in multiple dimensions at once. The Ravagers cannot adapt to weapons that change faster than they can learn. Captain Bae Tae-hyung's image grinned. Plus, they have to see us to adapt. Hard to do when we can disappear. Show them Ghost Protocol, Admiral Park ordered. Dr. Yoon touched another control. The hologram now showed the human fleet from an enemy perspective. 47 ships floated in formation, clearly visible on sensors. Then they vanished. Every ship disappeared. From the display, no energy signatures, no mass readings, no trace they had ever existed. Full-spectrum stealth, Dr. Yoon explained. We bend light, absorb radiation, and mask our gravity fields. To any sensor in the galaxy, we simply are not there. The aliens think stealth means hiding behind asteroids. Captain Ojinsu laughed. They have never seen true invisibility. Admiral Park nodded. Which brings us to tactics. The aliens will fight the way they always fight. Big ships in long lines trading heavy fire at maximum range. Honorable combat between giants. Boring, Commander Kim Ji-won muttered. And predictable, Park continued. The Ravagers will respond the same way. Massive fleets meeting in traditional battle. Both sides know exactly what to expect. She paused and looked at each face on the screens. We will not fight that way. While they trade shots like ancient sailing ships, we will hunt, strike from nowhere, hit the vital spots, vanish before they can respond. Death from the shadows. Swarm tactics, Captain Bae said. Like wolves hunting elephants. The aliens will not understand what is happening, Dr. Yoon added. Their ships will start dying for no reason they can detect. Terror is a weapon too. Long range. Sensors began beeping. Every head turned toward the displays. Red contacts appeared at the edge of the system. Lots of them. The Ravager horde has arrived, Lieutenant Choi Minho reported. Sensors count, holy stars, thousands of ships. Some of them are huge. Admiral Park studied the readings. Ships the size of cities, others as large as moons. Weapons that could boil oceans. The most dangerous fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Perfect, she said quietly. The other officers stared at her. Perfect? This was a nightmare scenario. Park smiled, and Lee Do-yun recognized that expression. It was the same smile she had worn after the alien meeting. The smile of someone with a deadly secret. All ships, prepare for Ghost Protocol, she announced. It is time to show the galaxy what small ships can really do. The human fleet began to fade from sensors. One by one, the ships disappeared until empty space was all that remained. But they were still there. Invisible wolves preparing to hunt among giants. In the inner system, the alien fleets moved into position. Massive vessels, forming walls of steel and fire, ready for the kind of battle they understood. They had no idea what was coming for them from the dark. Space itself seemed to scream when the Ravager horde emerged from hyperspace. Captain Lee Do-yun watched from Seoul's pride as reality tore open like wounds in the universe. Through those wounds came ships that defied imagination. The smallest Ravager vessels were larger than Vorthak dreadnoughts. The largest looked like artificial planets covered in weapons that pulsed with sick organic light. World ships stretched across hundreds of kilometers, their surfaces crawling with structures that moved like living tissue. "Sweet ancestors," Lieutenant Choi Minho whispered. "How many are there?" "Sensors count over 3,000 vessels," Commander Kim Ji-won reported, "including 12 world ships. Each one could house 1 billion creatures." At the center of the horde floated the command ship. It was not the largest vessel, but something about it made everyone who looked at it feel cold inside. Dark energy swirled around its hull like trapped souls. This was where warlord Grixmoth ruled his empire of destruction. The Ravager fleet moved with terrible purpose. Fighter swarms poured from the larger ships like angry insects. Millions of small craft that could strip a planet bare in hours. Behind them came the capital ships, weapons charging with light that hurt to look at directly. In the inner system, the coalition forces prepared to meet them. General Vextar's massive dreadnought Worldbreaker led the Vorthak battle line. 12 kilometers of armor and weapons that could crack continents. Around it, 50 more Vorthak ships formed a wall of steel and fire. The Kalari swarms buzzed with excitement. Hive Lord Zakittl's vessels moved in perfect formation, controlled by shared minds that thought as one. 200 ships and 1 million fighters, all ready to die for the Hive. "All units, engage at maximum range," General Vextar's voice boomed across the communication channels. "Show these barbarians the might of civilized warfare." The first shots lit up space like newborn stars. Vorthak plasma cannons struck Ravager shields in explosions that could be seen from neighboring star systems. The enemy returned fire with weapons that seemed to tear holes in reality itself. For a moment it looked like the coalition might hold. Their massive ships traded blow for blow with the enemy. Explosions bloomed between the fleets like deadly flowers. Ships died on both sides, but the battle lines held. Then the Ravagers revealed their true horror. The alien weapons began to change. Vorthak plasma that had burned through Ravager armor in the first volley suddenly had no effect. Energy beams that had crippled enemy ships were now absorbed by adaptive shields that grew stronger with each hit. "They are learning," Hive Lord Zakittle reported, fear creeping into the insectoid's voice. "Their defenses adapt to our weapons." General Vextar fired everything at a Ravager cruiser. Plasma cannons, kinetic rounds, antimatter missiles. The enemy ship absorbed it all and kept coming. Its return volley tore through Worldbreaker's armor like paper. "This is impossible," the Vorthak general roared. "Our weapons should be destroying them." But the Ravagers had fought 1,000 species across 1 million worlds. They had seen every weapon the galaxy could produce. Their ships learned from each battle, growing stronger with every victory. Kalari fighters swarmed around a Ravager destroyer. Their weapons struck from every angle in perfect coordination. The enemy ship adapted to their attack patterns, its point defense systems learning to predict exactly where each fighter would be. In minutes, The swarm was destroyed. Coalition ships began falling back as their weapons became useless. The Ravager advance continued like a slow avalanche. Nothing could stop ships that grew immune to damage. All units, retreat to secondary positions, General Vextar ordered. His proud voice now carried desperation. The World Breaker limped away from the battle line, hull glowing from multiple hits. But the Ravagers had not come to trade shots at long range. Their fighter swarms swept forward in clouds that darkened the stars. Bioships that looked like metal sharks tore into coalition formations. Weapons that fed on fear itself struck at the minds of enemy crews. The ordered battle lines collapsed into chaos. Ships fled in all directions as the enemy poured through gaps in their defense. What had started as a conventional fleet battle became a massacre. "Mayday, Mayday!" The voice belonged to a Trilaxian captain. "My ship is being boarded. They are inside the hull. How did they get through our shields?" No one answered because no one knew. The Ravagers fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Their ships passed through solid matter. Their weapons struck from impossible angles. Their warriors seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. On the outer edge of the system, Admiral Park watched the battle from Sol's Pride. The human fleet remained invisible, their stealth systems hiding them from all sensors. 47 ships that the galaxy had dismissed as useless toys. "Admiral," Commander Kim Ji-won said quietly, "should we assist?" Park studied the tactical display. Red icons showed Ravager positions. Blue icons for coalition forces grew fewer by the minute. The aliens who had mocked humanity's small fleet were dying. "Not yet," Park replied. "Let me understand their patterns first." She watched how the Ravagers moved, how they adapted, how they fought. Every species in the galaxy attacked the same way. Directly, obviously, predictably. The enemy learned their tactics in minutes and developed counters, but the Ravagers had never fought humans before. Lieutenant Nam Soo-young's voice came from the fighter squadron. "Admiral, the aliens are calling for us. They want our help." Park listened to the emergency channels. Panic filled the alien voices. Ships that had seemed invincible were burning. Crews that had laughed at human vessels now begged for assistance from anyone who would answer. "Where are the humans?" General Vextar demanded. "We need every ship in this battle." "Maybe they already ran away," someone replied. "Their tiny ships would not last a second against this enemy." Admiral Park smiled, the same cold smile that had appeared after the alien meeting. She opened a channel to all human ships. "All vessels, this is Admiral Park. The enemy has revealed their capabilities. They adapt to standard weapons and tactics. They learn from conventional warfare." She paused, watching another coalition ship die in nuclear fire. "Fortunately, we are not conventional. Ghost Protocol is now active. Time to show them what humans can do." The human fleet began to move. Invisible ships sliding through space like deadly shadows. They had studied the enemy, learned their weaknesses, identified their blind spots. The Ravagers had fought 1,000 species, but they had never fought ghosts. "All ships," Admiral Park continued. "Weapons free. Begin the hunt." What happened next would change galactic warfare forever. The first sign that something had changed was when a Ravager world ship simply disappeared. The massive vessel had been advancing on General Vextar's wounded flagship, when space around it suddenly blazed with impossible light. For a moment, the world ship's outline wavered like heat shimmer. Then it was gone, leaving only empty space where a moon-sized warship had been. "What happened?" Hive Lord Skittle's panicked voice filled the communication channels. "Where did it go?" The answer came from Captain Lee Do-hyun aboard Sol's Pride. His ship materialized from nothing directly beneath another Ravager world ship. The vessel appeared for exactly 3 seconds, long enough to fire its antimatter lance into the enemy's core, then vanished again into invisibility. The world ship cracked open like an egg. Atmosphere and debris sprayed into space as secondary. Explosions tore through its hull. In 30 seconds, a ship that could destroy planets was nothing but floating wreckage. "Impossible!" Warlord Grixmoth's voice roared across all frequencies. "What weapon could penetrate our adaptive shields?" He got his answer when Captain O Jinsu's Daegu Thunder appeared beside a cluster of Ravager cruisers. The small human corvette looked like a minnow next to the enemy ships. But when it fired its quantum torpedoes, reality itself seemed to bend. Each torpedo was no larger than a human fist. The Ravager adaptive systems tried to analyze them, tried to build defenses against them. But the weapons existed in multiple dimensions at once. They passed through shields that had stopped every other attack and struck the enemy hulls directly. The cruisers did not explode. They simply ceased to exist. Matter converted directly to energy in flashes that lit up half the star system. Where 6 massive warships had been, now there was only glowing gas expanding into the void. "They cannot do this," Grixmoth screamed. "No species has such weapons." But the human attack was just beginning. Lieutenant Nam Soo-young led her fighter squadron through the Ravager formation like a school of deadly fish. Each human fighter was smaller than most alien shuttlecraft, but they moved with impossible speed and precision, appearing and vanishing faster than enemy sensors could track. Her ship, Gwangju Lightning, materialized inside a Ravager destroyer's shield bubble. The enemy point defense systems had learned to stop every kind of fighter attack the galaxy had ever used. But they had never seen weapons that could phase through solid matter. Nam Soo-young fired a single shot. The projectile was a compressed singularity, no bigger than a grain of sand. It passed through the destroyer's armor like it was not there, and detonated inside the ship's reactor core. The enemy vessel folded in on itself and vanished into a point of infinite darkness. When the singularity collapsed, it took 3 more Ravager ships with it. Across the battlefield, human ships appeared and struck and vanished like phantoms. Each attack was precisely calculated for maximum effect. No wasted shots, no random targeting. Every human weapon hit exactly where it would cause the most damage. The Ravagers tried to adapt, tried to learn from these new attacks, but their systems could not analyze weapons they could not detect. Their adaptive technology was useless against enemies that struck from outside normal space-time. Captain Bae Taehyung's stealth destroyer, Incheon Ghost, penetrated to the heart of the enemy formation. Without being detected once, the ship passed through Ravager patrols like they were made of mist, its advanced stealth systems bending space around its hull. When it reached the center of the horde, the Ghost deployed humanity's most closely guarded secret: a spatial compression bomb that created a localized black hole in the middle of the enemy fleet. Reality screamed as space-time collapsed into a single point. Dozens of Ravager ships were pulled into the artificial singularity before they could react. Their adaptive shields were useless against a weapon that attacked the fabric of existence itself. The black hole lasted exactly 10 seconds before collapsing. When it vanished, an entire section of the enemy fleet had been erased from the universe. From the coalition lines, the alien commanders watched in shock. Ships they could barely see on sensors were destroying enemies that had seemed invincible. The tide of battle was turning, but they did not understand how. "What is happening out there?" General Vextard demanded. "Our sensors show Ravager ships exploding, but we cannot see what is attacking them." "It must be the humans," Hive Lord Skittle replied, wonder in the insectoid's voice. "But how? Their ships are so small." The answer came from Admiral Park as Soul's Pride materialized briefly on their sensors. The human flagship looked tiny next to the alien dreadnoughts, but the weapons fire streaming from its hull was unlike anything they had ever seen. Antimatter lances struck Ravager capitals with surgical precision. Each shot was aimed at critical systems, power cores, weapon nodes, command centers. The enemy ships tried to adapt their defenses, but the human weapons changed frequency with every shot. A Ravager heavy cruiser that had shrugged off Vorthak plasma cannons was cored like an apple by Soul's Pride's main gun. The antimatter beam punched through its adaptive armor and detonated the ship's fuel stores. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. Warlord Grixmoth. Admiral Park's voice cut through the chaos on the communication channels. "This is Admiral Park Heejin of the human fleet. Your ships are attacking members of the coalition. Withdraw immediately or face complete destruction." Grixmoth's reply was filled with rage and disbelief. "Impossible. No species can destroy the Ravager horde. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Then you should have learned not to underestimate new enemies, Park replied calmly. What happened next proved her point. The entire human fleet dropped stealth simultaneously and opened fire. 47 ships that had been invisible suddenly blazed with weapons that defied the laws of physics. Space itself seemed to burn as antimatter lances crisscrossed the battlefield. Quantum torpedoes phased through reality to strike targets that should have been protected. Singularity cannons tore holes in space-time itself. The Ravager fleet, which had seemed unstoppable minutes before, began to collapse. Ships that could adapt to any weapon found themselves facing attacks that existed outside normal physics. Their technology was useless against enemies that rewrote the rules of warfare. In less than an hour, the most feared fleet in the galaxy was reduced to scattered. Survivors fleeing toward the edge of the system, the massive Ravager world ships that had darkened the stars with their bulk, now drifted as burning hulks. Smaller ships ran for their lives, their adaptive systems overwhelmed by weapons they could not understand. Even Warlord Grixmoth's command ship was retreating, its dark hull scarred by human weapons. The creature who had destroyed civilizations was learning what it felt like to face a superior enemy. "This is impossible," he transmitted one last time before his ship jumped to hyperspace. "No species fights like this. What are you?" Admiral Park's reply followed him into the void. "We are human. Remember that name." As the last Ravager ships vanished into hyperspace, the human fleet began dropping out of combat readiness. One by one, the invisible ships reappeared on sensors. To everyone's amazement, not a single human vessel showed critical damage. They had fought the most devastating battle in galactic history and emerged virtually untouched. The aliens who had mocked their small ships now stared in silent awe. The sky had burned, and humanity had lit the fire. Silence filled the communication channels as the last Ravager ships vanished into hyperspace. The greatest threat the galaxy had ever known was gone, defeated by vessels most aliens had dismissed as toys. Captain Lee Do-Yun stood on the bridge of Soul's Pride and watched the tactical display update. Red enemy contacts disappeared one by one until only debris fields remained. Blue friendly icons showed the surviving coalition forces, damaged alien ships limping through space, and 47 green dots representing the human fleet. Every single ship intact and ready for battle. "Sir," Lieutenant Choi Minho reported quietly, "General Vextar is requesting communication." Lee Do-Hyun looked at the display showing the Vorthak flagship. The massive worldbreaker was barely holding together. Its hull glowed from multiple impacts and atmosphere leaked from dozens of breaches. The ship that had once seemed invincible now looked like a broken toy. "Put him through." General Vextar's image appeared on the screen. The giant lizard-like alien looked older than before. His scales were dulled, his eyes filled with something Lee Do-Yun had never seen from him. "Respect." "Captain Lee," the general began, his voice much quieter than usual. We owe you an apology, and our lives." Before Lee Do-Hyun could respond, more communication requests flooded in. Hive Lord Zakittl's swarm ships had formed protective formations around the human fleet, the highest honor in Kalari culture. Other alien commanders were broadcasting thanks and amazement. "How?" General Vexitar asked simply. "How did your tiny ships do what our dreadnoughts could not?" Admiral Park's voice cut through the chatter. "All ships maintain formation for damage assessment. Coalition vessels report casualties for rescue operations." The scope of the alien losses was staggering. Over half the coalition fleet was gone, or severely damaged. Ships that had seemed unbreakable lay shattered in space. Thousands of alien crew members were dead or missing. Meanwhile, the human fleet reported minor damage to 3 ships and 0 casualties. "This defies explanation," Hive Lord Zakittle transmitted. "Your weapons, your tactics. Nothing in galactic warfare matches what we just witnessed." Admiral Park's flagship moved closer to the coalition survivors. Soul's Pride looked impossibly small next to the alien vessels, but now that size seemed intentional rather than inadequate. "Dr. Yoon Seo-hyun will explain our capabilities," Park announced. "All interested vessels prepare to receive technical briefing." The elderly human scientist appeared on screens throughout both fleets. Her gentle voice carried clearly as she began to reveal humanity's secrets. "For 50 years we studied how the galaxy fights," she said. "Every species builds the same way. Bigger ships, heavier armor, more powerful weapons. You compete to see who can build the largest dreadnought." General Vextar shifted uncomfortably. His entire military philosophy was based on size and overwhelming firepower. "Humans learned differently," Dr. Yoon continued. "Our homeworld wars taught us that victory comes from fighting smarter, not harder. We compress technology instead of expanding it. We hide instead of showing off. We strike precisely instead of firing randomly." She gestured, and technical specifications appeared on every screen. The aliens studied the data with growing amazement. "Your antimatter lance? A trilaxian," Captain interrupted. "The power requirements should be impossible for a ship that size." "We fold space around the weapon," Dr. Yoon replied. "The lance exists in 11 dimensions simultaneously. Most of its bulk is stored outside normal reality." "The stealth systems?" This question came from a Nexari energy being. "We bend light, mass gravity, and phase partially out of normal space. Your sensors cannot detect what exists in multiple dimensions at once." Captain Bae Taehyung's image joined the briefing from his destroyer. "The Ravagers adapted to your weapons because they could analyze them. You cannot adapt to what you cannot see or understand." Commander Kim Ji-won added her own explanation. "Every human ship is designed to do the impossible. We carry weapons that should not fit, move in ways that should not work, and fight battles that should not be winnable." "But why hide these capabilities?" General Vextar asked. "You could have demanded leadership of the coalition forces." Admiral Park answered that question herself. "Because 50 years ago, when humanity first joined the coalition, we were truly weak. Our ships were inferior, our weapons primitive, our tactics outdated." She paused, letting that sink in. "So we watched. We learned. We studied every species, every weapon, every battle tactic in the galaxy. While you debated who had the biggest guns, we designed ships to counter everything you might face. Including the Ravagers," Hive Lord Skittle realized. "Especially the Ravagers," Park confirmed. "We knew something like them would eventually appear, an enemy that adapted to conventional warfare. So we built ships that fight unconventionally." Major Kang Nari's transport docked with a damaged alien cruiser to begin rescue operations. The sight of human Marines saving alien crew members drove home the message. Humanity had not just won a battle, they had protected their allies. "There is more," Dr. Yoon added. "Every human crew trains for multiple roles. Our captains can fight like destroyers or scout like corvettes, depending on the situation. We adapt faster than any enemy can compensate." The revelations continued for hours. The aliens learned that human small ships were actually marvels of compressed technology. Each vessel carried enough firepower to level planets, but in packages, they had dismissed as insignificant. "Your entire military philosophy is the opposite of ours," General Vextar mused. "Where we build monuments to power, you build tools for victory." "Exactly," Admiral Park replied. "We do not fight to look impressive. We fight to win." As rescue operations continued, the political implications became clear. Word of the battle spread throughout the coalition. Species that had ignored humanity for 50 years suddenly wanted to learn from them. "Admiral Park," came a transmission from Coalition High Command. "The Council requests immediate consultation on fleet redesign. Several species wish to adopt human tactical principles. But perhaps the most telling moment came when the Kellery swarms, traditionally the most xenophobic species in the galaxy, officially requested human protection for their core worlds." "We misunderstood," Hive Lord Skittle admitted. "We thought military might meant having the largest ships. Now we know it means having the smartest ones." Captain Lee Do-hyun watched alien vessels forming escort positions around human ships. These same aliens had laughed at humanity's tiny fleet hours before. Now they treated those same ships like sacred guardians. "Sir," Lieutenant Choi Minho called out. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command. They want to know if we need reinforcements." Admiral Park looked out at the stars where human ships now patrolled as the galaxy's protectors. The lesson had been taught. The small could defeat the large if they were clever enough. "Tell Earth we have this sector covered," she replied. "But send our ship designs to the Fleet Academy. It seems the galaxy wants to learn what small really means." Later, as the human fleet prepared to escort the damaged coalition vessels home, General Vextar sent a final message. "Admiral Park, I must ask, could you have saved us earlier? Before so many died?" Park considered the question carefully before answering. "Yes," she admitted, "but then you would never have learned to respect what you cannot understand. Sometimes the best victories are the ones that teach your allies as much as they hurt your enemies." The Vorthak general was quiet for a long moment. "You let us suffer. To prove a point." "I let you learn," Park corrected. "The next time someone brings you ships you think are too small to matter, you will remember this battle. You will ask what makes them small instead of assuming they are weak." As the combined fleets jumped to hyperspace heading home, the galaxy began to change. Species that had competed to build the largest warships suddenly wanted to learn about compression technology. Military academies requested human instructors. The word small stopped being an insult and became a mark of deadly efficiency. But perhaps most importantly, when new threats emerged from the dark spaces between stars, the galaxy no longer mocked the human ships that rose to meet them. They prayed those ships were on their side. The age of human warfare had begun,